Hi everyone, this is Amy and I'm here with Jess. So we're just going to have a look at the get started email that Jess has been sent, which all new members get sent, and sort of look at how you can follow that email to get your access onto the Toastmasters International website, which will give you access to Basecamp where all the educational material is. And you can also see your profile, so you can update any of your contact details if needed. And look at some of your member history too. So hi Jess, thanks for helping out today.
Thank you.
Can you click on the get started link and we'll see where it takes us?
Yep.
Perfect. So it's going to ask you to enter your email address. So that will be the one that you put on your member application form, and create a password. Jess might not want to use the suggested password.
No, I will come up with my own quickly. Let me just. I'm guessing we can change it if we need to. Let me just...
Yes, yeah, and then you can do a forget password as well if you forget it at any time.
Again. Hopefully it doesn't take too long.
It was a bit slower when you're screen sharing as well, I find.
That's what I was thinking, but
there you go. So
save that. Okay.
It will ask you here to opt into communication from Toastmasters International. So this could be newsletters, updates and things. So you might prefer email or mail. So you just choose what you'd like. You can also change these at any time.
What are the public reports? Toastmasters public reports for various purposes.
So this would be, for example, last year when I was an area director, if someone opted into having their name on public reports, it means that I had access to go and look at any member who'd achieved an education award in the district. So when it says public, it's not as in the general public, it's members who are elected into officer positions. If you don't tick yes, then it puts your member ID, I think, instead. So it's more anonymous, but it's just the reports that are used internally at that higher leadership level.
Okay. Right, so there's my privacy settings done.
And it actually gives you steps here. So it will say review your information and privacy preferences. So that's the privacy preferences we've just done. I would recommend not scrolling down at the moment just because it will show your address. But basically, underneath where that little picture is, you can change your picture. It will have your club number. So it will have Sussex Online's club number. It will have your address, and you can edit that information at any time where it says edit contact information. So if you change your address, you want to use a different email, you can change.
And that's, so my address is just down there.
Like,
yes.
Yeah. I would advise though, if you want to change your email address or phone number, when you update this, it's not something that like the club officers might pick up straight away. So that would be preferable for those two things, that you let us know if you've changed that. But if we were needing your address to send you an education award, we'd use the Toastmasters website, just so we can update like WhatsApp or our Gmail that we use to communicate with members. You'll see there's a few other options here. So when you start achieving educational award, you can look at your history there. If you hold any club officer roles, just so if you look at that bottom menu, it's just kind of self-explanatory. It'll tell you about the history of your membership, things that you've paid and downloaded, which might be if you choose to be a speechcraft coordinator and you download and pay for that pack, then that will be available in my downloads. So that's just a bit, that's all your history as a member, I guess, that's available there. Then it's got here on step 2, it says choose a path. So yeah. What you want to do is click on choose a path. And then
accept.
Yeah, so that's, I believe that the information they collect will be for head office to use about what members are doing which pathways and so on. And then, so your membership includes access to the digital resources, and members can request that resources be printed as well. So if you hit on select digital resources, and then it will scroll down. Now, we already know Jess wants to do presentation mastery because she's scoped out some of the pathways before, but I always recommend that for new members because it is that core pathway that's focused on just the presentation skills, but it's not always a choice for the members. So you can look at the options and you can do a little quiz, and you can do that quiz at any time as well. So once Jess, for example, has just finished her level 1, and when she starts getting to the end of presentation mastery, she might choose to open up a second pathway, and she could do the little quiz, and it would make recommendations for her based on answers that she gives about her leadership or communication, specific wants or her goals around public speaking. So if you check, if you wanted to do the assessment, if you click on that, it's very self-explanatory. And then you hit continue down the bottom there. And it's just confirming that you've selected that. So you hit continue again. Yes, and then it has a little video about logging into Basecamp, and it has a button there that says go to Basecamp. So that's good for your first step, but to access it again as a member, it's actually under the Pathways tab at the top left.
Up here.
Yeah, and if you click on that, it will say go to Basecamp. And I would recommend saving this as a favorite. If you're someone that likes to have favorites, I would recommend saving that for sure. Okay. So now you've logged into Basecamp. Obviously, if you went to Basecamp and you hadn't logged onto the Toastmasters website, it would take you through a login process first.
Okay, so now, this is Basecamp then? Yes,
this is Basecamp.
So what was the previous screen, the Toastmasters website? Or...
Yeah, so Basecamp is essentially like a portal that's part of the Toastmasters website.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's some other bits and pieces that as a member you get on the Toastmasters website, but I'll quickly touch on those at the end. So now that you're in Basecamp, it looks so different when you're new. So you've got a profile there. So see where it says Basecamp profile. If you no, it says just a little bit over from where your name is. Yeah. You click about me. You can update information in here as you wish. So I think especially when we've got when we have bigger clubs, for example, members might put a summary of themselves in there. You can put a photo in, I believe. If you scroll down, you can put what your interests are. And you can even go and record when you've done some of the key roles like general evaluator and grammarian. So there's a few little tools you can use in this. And then if you scroll up now, where the feedback tab is, if you click on that, this is where people could leave you feedback. So for example, the president, vice president of education and secretary of a club are Basecamp managers, so they could go in and leave you feedback as a Basecamp manager, or any member in the club can leave you anonymous or named feedback. So if someone wants to give you feedback after you've given a speech, they can actually put it in here. And the way you could do that is up in the top right where it says search. If you typed in Amy Jones and then searched me, there I am. So you'll see that will show you my profile. You can see there's a bit, I probably need to update that as well, because I think it doesn't talk about SOS, so I definitely need to update that. So that's just a bit of information about me. So I guess it's quite useful for new members if people actually did this and they could learn about other members in the club. And then if you go to the feedback tab there, you'll be able to see feedback that other people have left me, and you can leave me feedback as well if you want to. And this is another way you can share the evaluations with people, because you can actually attach documents. So you'll see there that Fran in April 2020 must have evaluated a speech that I did. And
then everybody can see your evaluation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And actually looking at that, that's not April 2020, that's July, because it's Americanized the date. So it's July 2020.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you can make the feedback anonymous so everyone can't see it, but she's made it live. There's not a lot in there. To be honest, this is probably underused, this feature, but it's quite handy.
Yeah, I think it will be used more with the COVID-friendly face-to-face meetings, because it was mentioned in Worthing, wasn't it?
It was, but funnily enough, we don't use it that much. Like you can see, I've been a member of Worthing for ages. I barely use it. Yeah. I would almost think, I think online clubs would be more likely to use it, because in physical meetings, like when you came to Worthing, we encourage people to write feedback down during a meeting.
Yeah,
so
true.
It kind of takes away from putting it on Basecamp. Whereas, you know, because we're doing online meetings, someone could literally write you feedback in the middle of a meeting.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier. You can have Basecamp open as the Zoom meetings open. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It'd be a good habit. Maybe that's a habit I need to develop. So yeah, that's how to leave feedback for other people. But going back to your sort of use of pathways, Jess. So if you go back to the home tab, if you just sort of hover over it and click on home, it's a little bit chunky, some of the buttons. So you want it to hover down. Yeah, I don't know why it's not. There it is.
There we go.
Yeah.
Go away.
Yeah. So again, your sort of key resources that you want is your access to your paths there. Then it's got speech evaluation. So if you go into that, you can literally look up any project. So if I said to you, Jess, could you evaluate me? I'm doing a presentation on managing time, then you would look that up. It's alphabetical via column. Yeah, there you go. So you would just click on that. And then that will open up. It'll give you a little bit of information there, but you essentially, if you hit launch on the side, it should, yeah, it might block it. Yeah, click here. There's a few things on Basecamp that you might have to disable your pop-up blockers to access, because it will have pop-ups. So that's the evaluation form.
Okay.
So then you can use that resource you can use that area of Basecamp to find any evaluation form for any speech. So if you see on the agenda that someone's doing a speech project you've never heard of, it will be in there.
And that can help you as well. So preparing for my next speech, I can look at the evaluation form to see what
yes, you can. But when you're in your resource for your project, it should also give you the evaluation form that way. So when you're going, you'll be like progressing through some material, and it should give you the evaluation resource within that. But then sometimes if you just want to go back and grab the resource because you've already looked through the materials a few weeks ago, then you can rip it out of just that one area of Basecamp.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so you could go back to home now. Yeah. And then you've got your paths and learning there. However, you can also access it. See at the top, it says paths and learning.
Yep.
There's sort of two ways to get into this bit. So either way will get you to the same place. So if you click on paths and learning either way, either the top or from this home menu, and then you'll see here, now it says, you can see there, it's literally said, you've gone in and accessed that evaluation resource. But it's not a project for you, it's just a resource you've accessed. But now it's going to ask you to start your presentation mastery curriculum. Now, because you finished your level 1 before we charted, I believe there's a form I can submit. Like we can submit it together and I can say that you've done it, and then your level 1 will get pushed through for you, because usually you have to progress through it on Basecamp. And I'll show you what I mean on that. So if you hit open curriculum, so there's 5 levels on every path. So you've got your 5 levels there.
Yep.
and it sort of breaks down an overview here. So you've got 4 requirements in level 1, 4 in level 2, 3 in level 3, 4, level 4 has 3, level 5 has 3, and then you do like a bit of a, when you wrap up at the end, there's a few things to do there. So because you're now working on level 2, Jess, let's go to level 2 if you click on that. And then these are your 3 projects for level 2 as part of the presentation mastery, and you need to do all 3 of them. So you're working on effective body language at the moment, I believe.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So if you were to hit activate
And then launch.
Yeah. And then basically you begin. And each part of this will have an introduction, and then there's like a survey, and it will so yeah, it's introducing you to what the scope of the speech is and the purpose, and then it will ask you to assess your skills prior.
Okay.
Then you'll work through some more content. There'll be project checklists, and there might be videos depending on the specific assignment. The evaluation form will be found in there somewhere. Then you go away and you book in the speech with the club, complete it, get your evaluation form back, and then the final step as you progress along will be to reassess your skills, and then it will give you a summary. So the idea is hopefully after each project, if you've put yourself down on a scale of 1 to 5 as a 2 for using body language, ideally you would hope that at the end you might put a 3. So then if you put a 2 for everything, so there's 10 different marks, and you put a 2 for everything and you only improve, you feel you're recognizing yourself saying, you know what, I think I might have done really well on this and this part, but I didn't focus enough on other areas. That's fine, but it's just there for you to reflect on as you finish each project in pathways. And you can go back and forth, as you've seen. Jess has just manipulated that. And down the bottom, it says select to move to another section, so you can jump around a little bit if you like to. So these are all the areas it's going to go through. So it's going to introduce you, talk about the assignment, assess your skills, look at competencies, body language, talk about different types of body language, using gestures, so on and so forth, and then assess your skills. So you can jump around between that. So if you choose to use a speech, if we have a club that's really multicultural, and you're going to use body language that might not sit well or not be, I guess, received as well with the full audience, you might go back and look at cultural differences and sort of rethink about how you use that kind of body language in a speech. Yeah, so you can go back and forth between the various bits of that project if you wish to.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then if you go back to the open curriculum, so even though, so Jess needs her level 1 pushed through by Toastmasters International because it was done prior to chartering. But even if you'd not finished your level 1, you do have the ability to go and look at other projects, and you can go and have a look and do. So for example, when you get to level 3 and 4 and you get elective projects, you might look at one, do all the training required for it, and then decide, do you know what, I actually don't want to do that project, but it's just all there available to you to look through. So you'll see level 3 is quite different. So there's a required project, which is that persuasive speaking one. And then it's going to ask you to choose 2 electives out of 13. So next to that elective project, if you hit view details, then these are all the other electives that you could choose to do. So Jess and I have spoken briefly about her doing, there should be one in here. Maybe it's in the level 4 project, but one that Jess, you might be able to do if you go up, is it using presentation software?
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean you need to use a PowerPoint. It could be if you're doing something a bit fancy with your kickboxing, for example. If you do any presentations as part of onboarding new members, like you could really adapt it for your specific needs.
Okay.
In your own life. So yeah, and there's lots of different projects, so you can look through them at your own pace. and you might bookmark some, and then when you finish your level 2, you're like, okay, well, these are the ones I've got in mind to do later on. Yeah, so that's a bit of a scope. It kind of needs a bit of exploring in there to get more familiar with how it all works. I think that's the main areas. If you go back to home, Jess, I'll just touch on one other part. That's
the
quite...
percentage a percentage of the whole 5 levels? Where at the moment it says 0% complete.
Yes.
That's because level 1 hasn't been put through.
Yeah, so we'll, like, if you go into the, do you know what? I'm going to have a quick look on my pathways.
I'm just wondering if it's the percentage through your current level or through the whole thing.
I think that one there where it says curriculum progress would be through the whole pathway. But when you click, see where we're in level 3 at the minute, and next to level 3 there's a 0%.
Yep.
That would update separately, I believe. But I'm opening up my Basecamp just to have a quick look. Yes. So I've got a pathway that I've done 3 levels in, and I've started the 4th level, and it says that I'm 53% through. But then when I click on level 1 in that one, it says 100% next to it.
That makes sense. Okay,
yeah.
I'll go back to home now.
Yeah. And then under the home menu, you'll see there's a video there as well. So it gives it an overview of Basecamp. There's more tutorials and resources in there as well. So that's worth having a bit of a look at. If you scroll down, oh yeah, you've clicked on that. So I think from memory, this might be more resources in different languages.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, and there's some how-to videos on a few bits and pieces.
Go back.
So it could, if you want to like download a certificate, I think for your pathway completion, it will have a video in there of how to do that. Then your feedback and badges, so that's part of what members can share with you. So I could go, I think there's a badge that's like, it says you're being courageous or something. So if someone gives you a badge, you can see it through that. And then there's my documents. So this is another thing that you can do. I've tried to do it, but sometimes I forget. So I put my notes and evaluation forms in there when I've written notes for a speech, or if I've done a bit of research, I'll try and upload it into Basecamp. So it's kind of like a Google Drive or something similar, like an online drive to store things in, but it doesn't have to be used. It's just useful if you're someone that's using lots of different laptops all the time, you might prefer to store it in a cloud-based system like this than on your own devices.
Yep, and it keeps it all with Toastmasters. Can anybody else access that, or is that just personal?
I am actually not sure. That's quite interesting. Why don't you have a look at me and see if you can see mine? So if you go to Amy Jones, I can't imagine you would.
No. It doesn't look like I can see anything.
No, if you scroll up the top there, what does that e-portfolio do? If you click on that.
Where's the e-port?
It's next to the feedback. It's
kind of at the top there.
Yeah. No, that's just bad. Oh, no, you can't.
But I can't see any.
No, so I'm guessing maybe I could make them live if I wanted to, potentially on my end, but I probably haven't. Yeah.
Yeah. So you do have documents, I just can't see them.
Yeah, or if you click on that, what happens? Yeah, okay, that's interesting. So maybe I can set them as, I'm going to go have a look now. If I can make them
public. Sort of Toastmasters public.
No, it doesn't look like I can make any public. So I'm not sure what that does, to be honest, but that's interesting. That's the first time I've ever noticed that. There's probably some things in here I haven't explored, that's for sure. So, and then yeah, and then back to home. If you're ever lost in Basecamp, just go back to home and then start sort of again. But yeah, the key thing is is your pass and learning, being able to access speech evaluation projects if you're evaluating other people. But to be honest, you can pretty much Google any project in Toastmasters and it will come up in Google. The evaluation forms now, because they're shared in a lot of different places. Yeah, so that's the main part of Basecamp. And if you go back to the Toastmasters website, Jess, which the easiest way.
Return to my Toastmasters profile.
Yes, and then, yep, there you go. So there's a few other things you can do now. So it says there you've enrolled in one path. You can go to Basecamp from this page as well if you wanted to. Now see where it's got the white box with Sussex Online Speakers. For dual members, you would have a drop down there. So you could switch your Basecamp to another club if you were a dual member. However, interestingly enough, so if I log in as Sussex Online, the club officers at Worthing can't see me. I kind of disappear. So sometimes when you're processing through, if you're a dual member, you kind of have to be a bit careful that if you're pushing through some of your pass through one club, you need to log in as that club if you need people to progress your awards for each level. You can also choose a new pathway there. So when you first joined, you paid, part of your membership fee was paying a fee for your first pathway. And then if you want any additional ones, they're $20 US, and you can buy them yourself at any point. And then there is a little, just there it says view the navigator. We won't go through that, but it is a bit of a guide that gives like a base coverage of, I guess it would have been probably what we chatted about when you joined, Jess, like me kind of explaining some of the meeting roles, how clubs work, what Basecamp's all about. So that's a little bit of a navigator of sort of the whole Toastmasters experience and a little bit about pathways. So that's quite good for new members to have a look at. There's some other bits and pieces that you'll have access to. So if you hover over Leadership Central, Jess, on the top up in the red here. So you'll see then there's Club Central and District Central. So you won't have access to that, but the club officers at our club will. So in Club Central, they'll be able to do things like add new members, renew members, access a list of our current membership, assign committee roles and a few basic admin bits for the club, update contact details and that kind of thing. And then in District Central, that's again the same, but for district level leaders.
Yep.
But you do have access to the brand portal. So if you were doing a presentation about Toastmasters as part of a project, you could go into that brand portal and have a look at the branding guide, which includes like the colors and the preferred fonts. You've got, yeah, and there's templates that you can use. So it's mainly about promoting the club, but sometimes it's useful for members if they ever want to do anything for a presentation. There should definitely be some PowerPoints you can download within that as well. If you wanted to do a PowerPoint and have it like branded particularly. And then under Leadership Central, there's another really good resource called Distinguished Performance Reports. If you click on that, now basically what this tells you is this is every single Toastmasters club, but let's keep it simple. So we're in Region 10. So if you scroll down, you've got Region 10 there, and we're District 91. So it gives you a bit of a data overview of different information about our district and all the other districts and regions that exist. But you'll see there on the left-hand side, to keep it simple, you can look up any club. Up the top left, it is just under the logo, yeah. So if you type in Sussex, for example, and hit search, you'll find there's a couple of clubs with Sussex in the name. But if you click on Sussex Online Speakers, so that's our club number. And then you can look at the performance of our club. So at the moment, you'll see these are all the sort of awards that our club can achieve as part of something called the Distinguished Club Program. And on here, this updates once or twice a month. So sometimes it can be a little bit out, but at the moment, our base membership it says 26 members, but it's actually 27 that we chartered with. I think it's still got to update. And then it says we've got 29, but I believe we processed one more person, so that needs to update on there as well. I believe he might be a transfer, which might be why it hasn't populated yet. And then it will talk about goals. So these are all the goals the officers will be striving towards in the club. And we've already achieved one, which was having our membership dues on time, because we chartered sort of at the end of a renewal cycle. We got that point, and we also submitted a club officer list. So that's part of the administration of the club. And there's a point for training, so making sure club officers attend training. So our club won't get that goal this year because we weren't chartered in time for June sort of to August training. And we also have a goal to try and find 8 new members. So not every club will achieve that, whether they struggle with membership or whether they don't need new members. So we have 30 members now, and if we maintain them through till next renewals, which is in March, we might not necessarily want another 5 new members, because that's quite a lot of members. But we'll see what happens. And
where
then
does it say the goal to get to get 5 new members?
Oh, sorry, it's see down in the blue where it's like listing on the side, and then it's got membership.
Oh, here.
Yeah, and then you'll see there, see how it's got to date. We've got 3 out of the first part of that goal, and then the second part is to get another 4. So the 3 we've already got are the 3 people who joined us after we chartered. So that was Sarpa and Katrina and her husband.
Okay, yep. So then when you've completed that, then it will count up towards this one.
Yes, and then we'll get, that is 1 point, the 4, and then another point for the other 4.
Yeah, okay,
yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And then the educational ones, you'll see there, it kind of says like, so the club needs to aim to get 4 level 1 awards this year. So we already have one because you've achieved one, and hopefully a few more members will. And I mean, these are in place because it's about, sometimes you'll have years where like everyone's working through 2s and 3s and you won't have many people getting 4s and 5s. But the idea is a healthy club's going to have a nice balance of members working through different levels. They're not all going to be.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, especially because we're a community club, whereas like an advanced club, which is for advanced Toastmasters, you might barely ever see level 1s and 2s. So they might be more people focusing on their 4 and 5s or their Distinguished Toastmaster award. So yeah, it's just a way, I guess, for clubs to calibrate themselves and make sure the members are progressing through and focused on achievement and excellence, which is one of the values of Toastmasters. So yeah, I think that's probably bamboozled everyone enough. Do you have any other questions, Jess?
I don't think so. I think it's nice to see this. So being part of a club and the community, and it's nice to see what the club is working towards, because it puts more of an emphasis on working towards those awards beyond just our personal accomplishment. It's actually towards something bigger for the goals of the whole club.
Yes, yeah.
So when does this run from until? So we've only just chartered. So
so it runs from the 1st of July to the end of June, which is the Toastmasters year. It's a little bit confusing because obviously you've got the Toastmasters year, which is kind of when the leadership exchanges hands throughout the organization, basically. And then we also have renewals, which is the end of September and the end of March. So there's sort of a couple of milestones in the year. But these points are for 1st of July till the 30th of June. So for us as a new club, we won't get, there's 10 points you can get. We won't get 10 this year because we're new. And that would be we already won't get one because of, we weren't chartered in time for training. So there's little things that like won't be possible, but we could try and get 9 points, which would make us President's Distinguished. And you'll hear this a lot in Toastmasters. So you've got to be a distinguished club, which is what we want all clubs to achieve. They should get at least 5 points. And that's kind of fair, isn't it? Because if you're a brand new club, you're likely to get more level 1s and 2s because you've got quite a few new members. You might get a level 4 or 5 out of someone like Lucy or myself, who might be doing specific projects for the club, but it'll be quite hard to try and get level 2s and 3s because you need sort of 4 level 2s, so that would be quite hard to ask of all the members to do in that sort of period you've chartered in. So a 5, I think, is quite nice for a distinguished club. So it shows that like a club's on track and they've got the basics in place, but they might not have had enough members to achieve all the goals, or they might have too many new members or too many advanced members. They didn't get all the educational points in 1 year. And you can look up any club. So you could look up Worthing, or if you want to Jess and have a look at, and you can look at their history too. So if you type in Worthing there, yeah, it's the top one, yeah. So you can see we started the Toastmasters year with 33 members and we've only got 24. So we've taken a bit of a hit going back in person. And these are the goals we've already achieved this year. So we've already had the level 2 achievement and some 4s or 5s go through the club. We've had 3 new members join, and we had 6 out of 7 club officers attend training in June to August. So we've halfway through that training goal. And you could go back and look at previous years as well of how clubs perform. So it's quite interesting, you know, if you go to visit a club, you could go and have a snoop at how they're sitting on this, how many members they've got, and when they chartered, how old was that club.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's really interesting to see how much you can see about all of the clubs.
Yes. And it gets exciting when you're a district officer, because you can see more about other things that clubs get up to. So yeah, but that, I think.
Have you been a district officer, or are you a district officer?
That's what I was. So area director is one of the district officer roles. So last year when I was an area director, I could see a bit more. So I could look at reports about, what's a good example? So we have to assign for the international convention that happens every year in August. There's a board meeting, and they pass any new Toastmasters business. So there's things like making sure clubs have assigned someone to vote on their behalf. So that could be like a member of the club, or it could be that a lot of clubs would assign the proxy to the district director, because the district directors interview the people who are going to step up at international level. So quite often you would hand over, you would hand over that proxy vote to your district director. And you can look at a few other things, like on the left-hand side there, if you go to daily reports, I'm just wondering what you can see versus a club officer. So it's keep going down. Yeah, hit that daily report. It's sort of in the middle of where yeah. Well, you can see some of these actually. That's quite interesting. So okay, here's a good one. October dues. So the renewals fee that ends at the end of September. So a district director this is for District 38, because you were just looking at a club in District 38. So this would tell you at what point, yeah, so look, if you looked at District 91, I didn't know members could access this. It's quite interesting. So you can look at October renewals. So you can see that club at the top, Thame Speakers.
Yeah.
On the 22nd of September, they had at least 8 members renewed for the next membership cycle. So a club needs to have 8 paid members to be a club in good standing. So that was where it verifies it. So
it say they have 8 members renew?
It won't say it in this report. It just says verified complete.
Yeah.
But if you went and looked up that club, there's other areas where you can see how many people have actually renewed. But some of the reports, so because obviously there's a lot of clubs, some of the report that we were looking at that showed our club earlier, that doesn't update all the time. So that screenshot, it will update once or twice a month. This one is a daily report. So it's not update every day. So there you've got, so battle speakers there have come up.
That's what I was going to point out. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is because they've not had people renew. They're relaunching the club. So they're at the moment they're saying they're ineligible because they don't have that 8 paid members. But if they go in and so if they get 8 new members over the next month or so, and they backdate them to the 1st of October, they can regain their status back as a verified club, if that makes sense. So it gives you a window. Yeah. There is a few that are low at the minute. I think it's been quite hard for people going back in person or trying to work out what's going to happen with clubs after the pandemic. And then look, it says new club next to us down the bottom there. So that's quite exciting.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you're the only new club in the district?
No, there's another one that's recently chartered. They chartered in September though, so they wouldn't come up as new club, I don't think. They're called, if you do a Control F, Jess, I think they're an NHS club. So if you type in NHS, but maybe they're not called NHS, but I think they're a club with the NHS. I just can't remember what they're called.
How many different types of clubs are there? So you mentioned you're a community club.
Yes.
You mentioned advanced clubs. So that's for Toastmasters who have been Toastmasters for how long, approximately?
For an advanced club, they set a membership requirement. So you have to be a dual member.
Yeah.
And you'll need, or actually, I might misspeak there. I'm assuming you have to be a dual member. Potentially, you might not have to. But they'll usually have a minimum. So some might say you only need to be level 1. Some might say you need to be at least level 4. So they'll have sort of a standard that you need to be in order to, join an advanced club. They also sometimes have specialty clubs. So they've got a data science club in the district, and they've got a debate one. So they might run a little bit differently from the average club. And then, but typically you talk about community clubs, which is where that's what our club is. So it's open to usually anyone to join. We might have some restrictions, such as like how many members we have at one time, or that kind of thing. But generally it's open to the wider community. Then you've got corporate clubs, which will generally be open to a business or corporation and potentially their partners. So for example, in our area 32, H32, we have a corporate club called County Communicators, which is based at West Sussex County Council, and they allow people from the council to join, and also anyone contracted or in partnership with the council. So I think like someone, for example, I think there's a girl that they're in their club who their company does a lot of the meeting minutes for all the council proceedings. So they do a lot of administration contracting work. So then they're allowed to join because they're part of the council's partnered businesses, if that makes sense. Whereas I couldn't join that club because I've got nothing to do with the county council, but I could still probably go visit. I just can't be a member of their club.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's quite a few of those. So they've got them at Google and Amazon and Facebook.
Wow.
All over the world. And some big companies will have chapters. So they'll have, for example, Google could have a Google London, Google Los Angeles, wherever their offices are, they could have different clubs available to the specific staff that work in those areas. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think.
I see you saw the Triple Crown list.
Yeah, I was going to ask, isn't that what Lucy got?
So yeah, Lucy should have had 2 last year, but one of her awards got processed wrong. So she got 1. And I don't know if you can backdate this. It doesn't look like you can. I got 1 last year. Then if you have a look, so this is where, remember when we were having a look at the privacy things and it says name unavailable, but you can see the membership number. So that's someone who's opted out of having their names on things. I could probably guess who that member is though, because there's a few people who are known for like really, so this person's obviously probably a dual member at least of 2 or 3 clubs maybe. They probably were working on quite a lot of education awards, and then they finished them up in the new Toastmasters in the last couple of months since the 1st of July. So they've processed them all. Because it's 13 is a lot to do in 3 months, but they might have almost finished quite a few and then they've gone and done their final speeches or requirements for that level. But yeah, if you're quite focused, you can get through them quickly.
So the Triple Crown is for 3 levels of a pathway or across any pathways. Yeah, it says.
Yes, so 3 education awards in a year.
Okay.
It is, yeah. So you could get through, I think you can get 3 level 1s, but I believe the member might be able to get, so you'll see there, see that second person down, he's got 4.
Yeah.
You'll see there they've got 2 level 1s and 2 level 2s, so they can get a level 1 and a level 1 from different pathways. But for the club, when the club claims the awards for their points, I believe they can, so they can't claim 2 level 1s from the same person in the same year.
Okay.
So it does make, on the club level, it tries to distribute it so you don't have the same people achieving every award for the club, because that would then really mean that you might just have one member who's smashing it all and a bunch of members that aren't doing any awards. So it's trying to give a better picture of the overall club progress. Whereas this, if the members achieving all those awards, they can do what they want, really.
Yeah, so it's on an individual member level, it doesn't matter how many level 1s you get, how many pathways you sign up for.
Yes, yeah.
It won't add towards the club. Yeah.
Yeah, it would just be, if you get 1 level 1, then that's it, that can contribute to that one club that you've given that award to, essentially.
And then your next level 2 would contribute, level 3 would contribute, but multiple 1s and 2s don't contribute to the club.
No, and that's why a lot of people who are dual members, if they're quite if they have sort of the time to give to be doing quite a lot of awards, they might manage their awards in a way where they're doing one pathway at one club and another in another club. So like last year when I was a member of Gatwick, I tried to organize myself so that I focused on one pathway at one club and another pathway at a different club, and it made it. And it wasn't just about giving them the awards, it kind of made sense as well, because otherwise I would be in a pathway and then I'd say progress a level through, and then I'd need my Basecamp manager to progress it, and then he'd go, well, I can't see you, and I'd be like, oh, I've progressed to the wrong club. Does that make sense? Because you've got to be logged in as that club for them to connect your Basecamp with them. So if I was logged in as Worthing, Gatwick can't see me, or if I process something under Worthing, Gatwick can't pick it up. It has to be done by Worthing. So you kind of, as a member, you choose where you put your awards, basically.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Does that get difficult, though, to decide if you're a dual member?
It probably would. I certainly know there's a few members who are dual members of clubs that are very, they have good relationships with each other. So they might be a bit strategic and say, oh, we don't need any level 2s. And Jonathan's just, sorry, I shouldn't have said his name. And that member's just done a level 2, so we'll give it to the other club. Do you know what I mean? So you could be strategic about it. But at the end of the day, the member doesn't have to do it. So if they're like, well, I did all my speeches at the other club, so I'm not going to award it. It's their call where they award it, really. But I think, like you were saying, I think if you kind of understand how the system works, if you're working at that level as a member of 2 clubs, you probably would plan it that way anyway, because then like, oh, it's about, yes, I'm achieving, but I'm also helping my club progress through by being a little bit strategic about where I give my speeches.
So, for example, if I joined another club, it would almost make sense to start another pathway and do a level 1 with that club, because I've already done my level 1 with Sussex Online Speakers.
Yeah, you could, but you don't have to. You could join another club and decide you want to do a whole level there. So if you,
what happens if you, so it's only the completion of the level that counts?
Yes.
So if you split, so say my level 2, if I split that between 2 clubs, I'd then have the decision to make of, oh, which club do I complete with?
Yeah, and that's as a member, that's your decision. So
that's interesting.
You could say, oh, because there's 3 speeches in level 2. And if you did 2 at one club and 1 at another, you would say, right, well, I've done most of my level 2 at the other club, so I'll progress it there. But it's completely up to you on how you do that. And I think different people do it differently. Like I would say, I think it also depends on the reason you join another club. So for someone like yourself who wants to speak professionally, and we've spoken about you joining another club, if you join that club because of particular other members who are there, who you know are people that you want to see speak and you would love their kind of feedback because they've competed and so on, then if like you might find, oh, well, there's going to be particular projects you want to do at that club, whereas the other ones, such as using presentation software,
I'd rather
you might want to do at a technical club, like an online club, but in an in-person club you'll want to do you know, you could do body language in another pathway, for example, and do that at that club. Does that make sense? So you could sort of do it based on where you want that feedback and from.
Yeah. I would have liked to have done body language face in person actually, but I'm doing it online now. So
yeah. But that project will come up again, I believe, in other pathways, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, isn't it in all level 2s? Level 1 and 2 pretty much the same in all pathways?
Yes and no. So I believe body language would probably be in engaging humor, level 2. But in visionary communication, I don't believe I have. So my pathways that I've particularly chosen are quite, I don't want to say corporate, that's probably the wrong word, but I'm doing strategic relationships, visionary communication, and motivational strategies. So mine aren't about presentation, they're more about the relationships and communication I have with people. And my level 2 for visionary communication is understanding your leadership style, understanding your communication style, and an introduction to Toastmasters mentoring. So mine are a little bit different, but you'll tend to find there's common themes. So understanding your leadership style is in quite a lot of the more leadership-based pathways and the communication as well. Mentoring comes up in quite a few, but then when you're doing the ones like presentation mastery, then they've got body language in there because it's more about presenting than it is about sort of really delving into your leadership styles.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm going to need to go.
Yeah, me too. I'll stop recording now.